The blue duffel bag was already in the trunk when I came outside. I remember that bag because one of the zippers was broken. I had been meaning to fix it for, 3 years maybe. My wife, Elaine, was standing beside the car, with her coat folded over her arm, not wearing it, just holding it. The engine was running, but she wasn't inside. I said, "Where are you going?" She looked at me like I had asked the wrong question. Then she said, "You said you couldn't come. That was all. No anger, no tears, no shaking voice, just that." And the strange thing is, at the time, I felt relieved. I had been strong my whole life. That's what I called it anyway. I didn't complain. I didn't ask for help. I didn't talk about what hurt. If something broke, I fixed it. If money got tight, I worked more. If somebody needed me, I showed up with my hands, not my feelings. That sounded good to me for a long time. It sounded like being a man. Elaine used to say, "You don't have to carry everything like a sack of cement." I'd say, "Somebody has to," and she would go quiet. I thought that meant she understood. Now I know, quiet can mean a lot of things. That morning with the duffel bag, she was going to her sister's place in Ohio. Her sister had been sick. Not dying, but sick enough that people started using soft voices on the phone. Elaine had asked me twice that week if I wanted to come. I said I had too much to do. The garage door needed fixing. The insurance papers needed sorting. The gutters were pulling loose on one side. Little things. Important things, I thought. She didn't argue the second time. That should have bothered me. Instead, I said, "Drive careful." She nodded. Then she opened the car door and paused with one hand on the roof. For a second, I thought she might say something else. She didn't. She just got in and left. I went back into the garage and found the wrench I had been looking for. That's the kind of man I was. I could find a wrench. I couldn't find the moment my wife stopped expecting me to stand beside her. A few months before that, we were at the pharmacy. I remember because I was looking for compression socks, and Elaine was standing by the greeting cards. She picked one up and read it. Then she put it back. I said, "Who's that for?" She said, "Nobody." I laughed a little. Then why read it? She shrugged and walked on. Years later, after she was gone, I found a box in the closet with cards she had bought and never sent. Birthday cards, anniversary cards. One that said, "I miss talking to you." That one had no name inside, just a receipt tucked in it. From that pharmacy. I sat on the floor holding that card for a long time, trying to remember what I had been thinking that day. Socks. I had been thinking about socks. Elaine didn't leave me all at once. That would have been easier to understand. She stayed. She made appointments. She paid bills. She folded towels. She reminded me when the neighbor's son graduated. She told me when the car needed registration. She still said goodnight. But something changed in the way she said it. At first, she waited for me in doorways. "Are you coming?" "In a minute." Then later, she stopped asking. She would just turn off the hallway light and go to bed. I thought she was tired. She used to touch my shoulder when she passed me in the hallway. Small thing. Barely anything. One day, she stopped. I noticed. But I told myself not to be soft about it. That was my trouble. Every feeling looked like weakness to me, even the good ones. Our son Mark came by one Saturday to help move an old cabinet out of the guest room. Elaine had already cleared half the room. Boxes stacked cleanly, labels on everything. I said, "When did you do all this?" She said, "Last week." I said, "You should have told me." She didn't look at me. "You were busy." Mark looked at me then, just for a second, not angry. Worse, like he already knew something I didn't. After we moved the cabinet, he and I stood by his truck. He kept rubbing his thumb along the keys. Then he said, "Dad, Mom gets lonely even when you're here. I remember feeling insulted. I actually said, she's not alone. I'm in the house every night. Mark didn't answer right away. Then he said, yeah, I know. That was the first time I heard it from someone else, and I still didn't hear it. I went inside and checked the thermostat because Elaine always kept it too warm. That's what I did with pain. I adjusted something nearby, not the thing that mattered. The turning point wasn't some big fight. It was at a hardware store. Elaine had wanted to pick out new knobs for the bedroom dresser. I thought the old ones were fine. Brass, scratched up, but fine. She held up 2 little silver knobs and asked, do you like these? I was reading the back of a tube of sealant. I said, whatever you want. She stood there with 1 knob in each hand. Then she smiled. Not happy, polite. She put both knobs back and said, never mind. That smile stayed with me longer than any argument we ever had. Because she didn't look hurt, she looked finished. A week later, she started sleeping with a book on her side of the bed, not reading much, just keeping it there, like something to face instead of me. I would come in, take off my watch, set it on the dresser, and she'd already be turned away. I thought marriages got quieter with age. I thought that was normal. Maybe some do. But ours wasn't quiet because we were peaceful. It was quiet because one of us had stopped knocking on the door. I didn't realize that until the hospital corridor. Elaine had a small procedure. Nothing serious, they said. I drove her there. I filled out the forms. I sat in the waiting area with my jacket on my lap. A nurse came out and asked, are you the husband? I said yes. She said, she's asking for her sister, not me. Her sister. I remember the vending machine humming behind me. I remember a man across the room peeling an orange. I remember my own hands folded together like I was behaving correctly. When her sister arrived, Elaine reached for her hand. I watched that from the doorway, and for one ugly second, I was jealous. Then I felt ashamed, because I had taught my wife not to reach for me. After Elaine died, people told me I had been strong. At the funeral home, a man from church squeezed my arm and said, you're holding up well. I said thank you. I hated how proud I felt for not crying. Even then, even standing beside her picture with my good suit on, I was still performing strength for people who were going home to someone. The house didn't feel empty right away. That's the part I never tell people. At first it felt organized. No one moving my things. No one asking if I called the doctor. No one leaving notes on the mirror. No one saying, come sit with me a minute. I told myself I was managing. Then one afternoon, I found her old coat in the closet with a grocery list in the pocket. Milk, soap, stamps, and under that, written smaller, ask him if he's happy. She never asked me. Or maybe she did in other ways. Maybe are you coming? Was really that question. Maybe every time she stood in a doorway, she was giving me one more chance to step out of myself. You don't notice someone giving up when they still wash your shirts. You don't notice loneliness when it keeps acting polite. I spent my life being strong because I thought people needed me steady. But Elaine didn't need a wall. She needed a man who would sit down beside her and say, I don't know what to do either. I knew how she took her pills. I knew which tire lost air in winter. I knew the sound of the garage door before it stuck halfway. But I didn't know my wife was lonely, 5 feet away from me. And by the time I learned that, there was nobody left to tell.